Hey everyone, my name is Austin Moore, and you're watching my first poker vlog. So, a little bit about myself. I'm 25 years old. I live in Southern California, and I've been playing poker for the past couple of years. It's been such a fun time playing it. I really enjoy the game. I enjoy getting to meet new people, and it's always fun when you can make a little bit of money also. So it's a little bit about myself. For this first episode, we're going to be hitting Morongo in Southern California. I'm playing a 1-3 session. I'm buying it for $300. The game runs for 100 to 300, so 300 is the max you can buy in for. And yeah, let's run it. So I sit down, all the guys start talking about my camera. They seem like they're there for a good time, and it looks like it's gonna be a good day. I don't really play any hands like the first hour just because there's just nothing really reasonable to play until I finally look down at Ace King suited and the big blind. Pretty nice hand. I'm excited. I look around. There's action on the table. The middle position player raises a 12. Two people call. The button says, "Hell no, we're making it $50." And I got to kind of think for a second. He just won a big pot, so he could just be excited. And I'm going to find out. I make it 120. Action folds back around to him. He insta shoves, and I just go ahead and make the call. I got one of the best hands in poker. I'm not worried about it, and we go to a run out. The flop comes king 7-3, a 6 on the turn, and a jack on the river. As soon as the jack comes, my opponent jumps out of his seat and starts screaming, "I won, I hit my set," and continues to say hi to the vlog, as you can see. And yeah, we're gonna take an L on our first hand of the day and move on to the next one. So this next hand takes place kind of shortly after the big loss with the big slick. And so I see the pocket kings under the gun, and I'm the first one that has to make a decision here. And I kind of feel like limping in is going to be my best bet at getting other people to put money into the pot and gives me an opportunity to either steal it later or just sneakily play a big hand. So I limp in, and the player directly to my left raises to $12. Two people make the call in middle position and on the button. My plans worked. There's some soon to be dead money in the pot, and I go ahead and raise to $46. This bet kicks out the initial raiser, and the middle position player takes his time before making the call, and the button player folds. Before I even see a flop, I'm pretty much just thinking in my head, I know this player. I've pretty much played with him before. I've been watching him today, and he's calling way too often. Um, it's a pretty bad spot for him to be in, but a great spot for me to take advantage of, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So when the flop comes jack high with a 7 and a 3, it's definitely going to be hitting his range a lot more than it is mine. And I'm first to act, so I just go ahead and bet huge here. I think he's going to think I missed a lot of the time, and I'm just betting to try and win the pot. And that's pretty much exactly what happens. He makes the call, and we go to a turn. So as the turn comes out, it brings a flush draw. It's the eight of hearts. Really not my favorite card, but the range that my opponent is going to continue on the flop with for such a large bet is really not going to have many flush draws in it. So I'm not too worried, and I kind of just want to continue the story that I missed and bet big again. So I go ahead and make it 120. My opponent thinks for just about as long as he did on the flop, and finally comes to a call. The river brings another terrible card, the nine of hearts, Really not too thrilled about it, but as I said on the turn, he shouldn't have that many flush draws in his range. I'm holding the king of hearts and I'm feeling good about it, so I just go all in. He takes a little bit of time, not as much as on the turn or the flop, makes the call, and I just go ahead and show my hand immediately. It's kind of just etiquette to do that when you make the final bet. And he doesn't show his hand, doesn't let us know what he had, but we do win and take down the pot. Given by the way that the hand was played, it's imaginable that the opponent could have had a hand like pocket queens or ace jack or king jack. I think queens would be the top of his range, but it's definitely possible. He seemed pretty frustrated, and he definitely wasn't just bluff catching. I think he had some kind of a strong hand.
Going into the next hand, I decided to raise 7-9 suited from the button. When I decided to do this, there's been 5 players already that limped in for the minimum, meaning that they kind of like their hands, they'll play it, but they're not really trying to put that much money in. I decided to make it $20 to try and isolate anybody that does have a strong hand, or maybe even just take down the blinds as it is. This doesn't work though. 3 people make the call, and we go to a flop. The flop comes out. It's 9-5 deuce. There's 3 diamonds, and the action checks over to me. I kind of feel like I've got the best hand here. Everybody's checking. I have top pair, and I wouldn't mind seeing a turn with less people in the pot. So I bet out for $35. The only people I really am expecting to call are somebody with like an ace or a king of diamonds or somebody else that also hit the 9. So I make the bet, and the small blind and middle position player call. The 7 of diamonds comes out on the turn, and it's kind of annoying because now I just made 2 pair and the action checked over to me again. I'm not falling for this crap though. I'm just going to check it, and we'll see a river. The 5 of hearts comes out on the river. It's not the card that I needed. Somebody probably has a flush, and when the action checks to me, I'm still not falling for it. I'm just going to check, and we get shown the king of diamonds from the small blind. At this point in the session, I'm a little card dead. I'm hoping for some better cards. I changed seats, gives me a little bit better position to record hands, and I just waited out. Finally stumble upon the magical pocket aces, and when I do this, I have one player limp from middle position, and I'm in the hijack. I just raised to $15 because I think this is an amount that a player that limps can call, and it's also an amount that the button, small blind, or big blind could easily raise to try and steal. But that doesn't happen. The small blind player just calls, and the middle position player just calls. We come to a flop. It's 9-5-4 with 2 clubs. There's a straight draw that's possible, and there's a club draw that's possible. I'm liking it because at this point, there's no made hands that I'm really too worried about, and the small blind takes her time before betting out $25. The middle position player folds, and I consider a raise here, but given that I don't have the ace of clubs, I'm kind of hoping that she has a drawing hand, and I'm just going to let her bet and pretend like I don't really have much, but I'm just trying to keep her honest. The turn comes a 9 of diamonds, and it's not really that great of a card. The flush draw misses, the straight draws all miss, but if she was betting a 9 on the flop, I'm now behind. And she immediately bets out $55. This puts me in kind of a tough spot because I don't have any history with this player, and I really just don't know if she's betting a draw in this way or if she's got a 9 or maybe she sneakily played some kind of an overpair. So I just go ahead and make the call. I don't even consider raising at this point, and we come to a river.
The river comes the 5 of hearts, and The small blind bets out pretty quickly, $45, which is an amount lower than the last bet. And typically, when a player does this, they're really not that strong. It's kind of just a bet that says, hey, if you don't have anything, just let it go, almost. And at this point, I'm kind of just thinking she missed a draw. She doesn't have anything. At best, maybe she has an overpair and maybe some kind of an underpair. So I just go ahead and make the call. I show my aces. She shows pocket kings, and I'm going to go ahead and win this one. It's kind of a weird hand, and the whole table just doesn't even believe anything about the fact that we didn't get it all in. But it's kind of just some people play really tight. She was really new to the table, so she might not have known how I play, and that's just how poker goes. So shortly after the hand with pocket aces, I wake up with pocket queens in middle position. At this point, there's been one player who limped in under the gun, and I now have to decide how much I want to raise to. And I think $15 is a pretty standard amount. Like I said earlier, it's an amount that someone could raise if they think that they might have a better hand than me. And it's an amount that most people feel pretty comfortable with calling. So I raised the $15, and the player who's in the small blind with pocket kings during the last hand makes the call. And the under the gun player who limped in, I'm not really paying much attention to him. I'm looking at the girl who was in the small blind in the last hand, trying to see if she's doing the same thing with another premium hand, or if maybe she just has a weaker, mediocre drawing kind of a hand. So as I'm watching her, the under the gun player goes ahead and raises to $70. And this is a pretty big raise, and it's not really my favorite thing considering that he did limp under the gun and now he's raising. And typically, the hand that people do this with is going to be aces and kings. Now, I've never been scared, especially while I'm holding pocket queens, and I just go ahead and raise to $170. I add $100 to his bet, and he doesn't take too long. He looks over, laughs a little bit, and then just says all in. And now I'm stuck with a tough decision. At this point in the session, I'm in for about $500. I have about 550 or 600 in front of me, and I'm faced with a decision that could either double that or take it all away. Now, after playing this long and really just judging the other player that I'm playing heads up against at this point, I don't think that he's bluffing. I think he is going to be holding aces and kings a lot more often than it's going to be profitable to make this call. And I ask him if I fold and show my hand, if he'll show his. He says absolutely not. And at this point, he seems pretty confident. He's pretty strong. And I just go ahead and lay my hand down and tell him that he's good. He's the winner. Throughout my time playing poker, I've had this situation come up a bunch of times, and most often, the best case scenario is going to be that I'm up against ace king, and at that point, it's just a coin flip, and it's 50-50 that I lose the $600 that I have behind that I've been working on accumulating and playing for 4 hours. If he's making this move, hoping that I make this consideration in my head, then he's a really strong player and he's really good. But for a cash poker game, it's really not worth it to make these kind of big moves and gambles on just a coin flip. So I lay down the hand, and later on, the opponent tells us that he did, in fact, have pocket aces and we made the right laydown. So for one of the final hands of this session, I open up King Jack offsuit under the gun. And I just raised a $15 here. The table's been pretty juicy, and in some situations, I might fold this hand under the gun pre-flop. But for this table, it's a good hand to play. It's a good hand to get some value on and see some flops. So I raised a 15, and the player to my left calls from middle position, and the same player from the pocket queen's hand who's been pretty aggressive and playing a lot of hands with me, he also makes a call from the cutoff position. Now flop comes king 5 deuce, and considering that I do have a king and there's not really many other big cards on the board, I just decided to check here. It's gonna be hard to get value if I immediately bet out, and if I don't bet out, it kind of leaves the door open for other players to bluff. And so I check, the middle position player checks, and what do you know? The cutoff player does decide to throw some money in the pot and he bets out $20. I think just calling here is pretty good. Like I said, there's a lot more likelihood that he's going to be bluffing, and I just want to keep that bluff in, make him think that maybe I just have a big ace high or a smaller pocket pair that he could eventually get me off of. So I just make the call, and the middle position player folds. Next on the turn is a 7. So once again, there's really not much on this board. There's no flush draws. The board's a rainbow. And I'm not really scared of anything. If he has a king that's beating me, I'd rather not bet into him. And if he is bluffing, I'd rather let him keep bluffing. So I just check it over to him, and he bets out $25 this time, which is not really much more of a bet, and it kind of just says to me that he's not that strong. Maybe he does have a king with the really crappy kicker, and yeah, I still don't want to push him off of his hand if he's gonna continue bluffing. Maybe he'll try and continue to catch up, and I just make the call, $25, and we go to a river. The river comes as a jack, and this is a great card for me. I now have 2 pair. I'm not worried about any smaller 2 paired hands like 2-5 or 7-5. And as I said before, there's really no reason to bet. This guy seems to want to bet each street for me. So I just go ahead and check it over to him, and he bets out $45. I just make the call, and he shows king 4 for top pair with the shitty kicker, and I go ahead and win the pot. This hand's a great example of the way that you can kind of watch other players that you're up against and exploit their tendencies. This guy, on almost every hand that he was playing, was betting flop or calling somebody else's bet. It kind of seemed like he didn't ever want to take a street without putting more money into the pot. So I just kind of took advantage of that in this hand and let him bet the whole way through and collect some nice money.
All right, guys, it was a good session. We made a little bit of money. I cashed out for $680 after buying in for a total of $500. So that leaves us with a $180 profit after 6 hours of play time. I'm happy with that. It's not the biggest win I've ever had. It's not the worst. I definitely didn't lose any money, so that's great. Um, I think I had some good action during some of the hands here, and there was a couple times where maybe if I wasn't so aggressive, I could have saved a little bit of money. That's poker. You got to be aggressive sometimes. Got to get after it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you have tips on maybe how I could be doing something better, I would absolutely love to hear it. Drop it in the comments. If you know me personally, get a hold of me, let me know. Very friendly. I'm very open to anything anyone has to say about the video, especially people with more skills in the editing department than I do. Today I think is the 30th or the 29th, so it's about 2 weeks after actually filming this session. I played a session yesterday also at Morongo. I did pretty well. I think I got some good footage, so I'm hoping in about 2 weeks from now we'll have another video out. So stay tuned, look out for it, and thanks for watching. Bye.